Good morning and welcome to the fourth hour. Great to have you along. Forgive me, that I have an opening feat. The music's playing and the countdown's going on, and it's just incredibly loud. So I turned my volume way down. Otherwise, I'm gonna blow my brains out. Just that audio is just overpowering. They changed it recently um, on the service I'm using, StreamYard, and it's just ugh. Okay. Anyway, enough complaints. Welcome. It's not getting off on a good foot. That's kind of the story of my life here. All right, let's get underway. There are several stories, and I want to start by taking a look. Let's follow up on what's going on with the Ukraine. And this is a story at Semaphore that the president ratcheting up the pressure on Ukraine. This story is titled As Republicans Urge a Thaw. So some Republicans positioning themselves as friends of Ukraine, trying to get the mineral deal back on track. Representative Brian Fitzpatrick even back-channeled with Zelensky's chief of staff in a bid to try to keep the pact alive. And rather than trash Zelensky, South Dakota's Senator John Thune and Senate Majority Leader called the mineral deal a potentially historic agreement. Obviously, last week was a missed opportunity, he said. You can't disagree with that. Senator Pete Ricketts of Nebraska said what President Zelensky should focus on is the minerals deal and getting that back on track. President saying yesterday that Zelensky should just be more appreciative. Seemed to hint at the possibility that Zelensky might need to resign for a deal to get done. Certainly, I would say that Zelensky ought to pass this off to somebody else in Ukraine. I don't know that Zelensky needs to resign as to whether or not, and maybe I can't speak for President Trump, but clearly Zelensky is not going to be able to reason with President Trump. Zelensky's not going to be able to get this minerals deal over the finish line. I think that has become really, really clear, is that Zelensky is not capable of wrapping up that deal and making it happen. Seeing some of your comments. I'll come back to some of your comments near the end of the video. That's been working out nicely. Circling back to your comments at the end of what's going on. So I'll touch on these stories first. Also, this is another piece I wanted to share. This from Hot Air. Remember Matt Taibbi, who was the reporter along with Elon? He was one of the architects of the Twitter files along with Elon Musk. And so it was reporters, Matt Taibbi and others, when Musk had first purchased Twitter, releasing the Twitter files and what was going on. So Matt Taibbi was one of those. So Matt Taibbi is saying this: we paid an English subcontractor to create dummy Ukrainian social media accounts to post content in line with U.S. foreign policy objectives. So glad our tax dollars aren't going to waste. So here you have an English subcontractor creating dummy Ukrainian social media accounts. They weren't real, and posting content that was in line with what the Biden administration was doing. And that, boys and girls, is what your hard-earned tax dollars were going toward. Absolutely. It's just wild. Well, we talk about some of our tax dollars. Town halls got a piece. You won't believe where some of USAID's funding was going. No, unfortunately, I probably would. I probably would believe it. More's the pity. India's first medical clinic for people who think they're transgender shuttered after Doge gutted USAID, USAID, however you want to refer to them. I've heard it both ways. According to the BBC, Meter Clinic was started in 2021, offered HIV treatment, support, and counseling services to thousands of transgender people. There is something going on with the Democrats and this move toward transgender. I think there is something going on in the. I don't know what the. But there's something going on clearly. And not only in this country, but worldwide. They are then, so you've got American dollars being used to promote this throughout the globe. 2 more Meter clinics opened the same year. They've also been shut down. And it's all because of Doge. So in India, the shutting down of these clinics has impacted the transgender community's access to crucial medical support. This the BBC, which is pretty far left. Staff member who spoke on condition of anonymity to the BBC said the 3 clinics catered to some 6,000 people, and about 6 to 8% of the patients were being treated for HIV. All of these cases were below 30 years old. So that's where, and Elon Musk then said, that's where that's what American tax dollars were funding. Elon Musk said in response to this. So the more you see those kinds of, there is something that is going on there. American dollars used to fund, the rise of in the number of transgenders that we have seen, the Democrats, as we were talking about, the inability of any Senate Democrats to vote for the, fairness for women and girls when it comes to sports. Not a single Democrat in the U.S. Senate who voted in favor of it. There's stuff going on there that is sinister. That's at work there. And now the United States and USAID spending that kind of money overseas on the same kinds of issues. That is pretty crazy. Let's get back to some of the headlines occurring domestically. So we talk about President Trump and his tariffs. Warren Buffett is weighing in on this. He's not saying much. I went through some of this, and Buffett saying in an interview with CBS, he said, we've had a lot of experience with tariffs. They're an act of war to some degree, he said. And then he explained, he said, over time, they are a tax on goods. I mean, the tooth fairy doesn't pay him, he said, and he's laughing. And of course, he's right. He said, and then what? You always have to ask that question in economics. You always say, and then what? Okay, so you have the tariffs and tax on, and then what? And what's happening? Well, you're already seeing that Canada and Mexico it's tariffs against the United States. China is threatening the same kind of thing. And Buffett was also asked about the economy, would not comment. He said, well, I think that's the most interesting subject in the world, but I won't talk. I can't talk about it, though. I really can't, Buffett said. So that's a story this morning at the New York Post. In fact, there are a number of stories. I like following some of the most, the trending stories at the New York Post. So now you got the CEO of Target, which is based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, warning of price hikes on produce in the coming days following the tariffs on Mexico. And I think, I'm not surprised by this, are you? that you and I are going to be paying higher prices on goods in the coming days. One of the good news, the good news for me is strawberry. I'm not a big nut fan of strawberries, bananas, or avocados. Just not a big fan. But they're saying that because of rising duties, that these grocery items, the cost of those may be going up. Prices could increase over the next couple of days for seasonal produce, such as avocados, because Mexico is a significant amount of supply for these categories. Target relies heavily on Mexican produce during the winter months. The tariffs could force the company to raise prices on fruits and vegetables as soon as this week. So you may be seeing higher prices depending on where you're doing your shopping. Then, as we talk about rising prices, car prices may be going up as a result. Trump's tariffs on Canada and Mexico could surge car prices up $12,000, according to a report. I don't know who this is coming from. Bloomberg. Bloomberg reported this. So tariffs will be driving car prices up. Bloomberg expects. They said that kind of cost increases will lead directly, and I expect almost immediately, to a decline in sales of the models that had the biggest trade impacts, according to the chief executive of, this is a consulting firm. So prices are going up. And again, there's a piece at Fox News this morning, and the Trump administration being rated on how they're doing so far. And I went through the grades, and they have both, and they're looking at the Trump administration both from left and right. And the grades they're giving the Trump administration are A and A's and B's, largely. But the issue of prices is a real one, I think, for a lot of us, for a lot of folks. Keep your eyes on that. And I think the challenge for Trump is to, he's been hit on this immediately. He was talking about bringing prices down. Well, as you're implementing a good number of tariffs, that will not bring. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong about that. Also, what it has done, and you're seeing it just in the headline here, Honda is moving production of the Civic from Mexico to Indiana. Why? They want to avoid Trump's tariffs. So Honda now moving their production of the Civic back to the United States and out of Mexico. So, from that degree, they're working. And this is part of what Donald Trump has said, is we want these businesses to come back to the United States. We're implementing tariffs to get them to do that. And here's another example of how it's worked. So, we'll see what it's going to mean in terms of prices. But again, as you look at buying some of these goods can be produced domestically. Some can't. But for those goods that can be produced domestically, I've got to believe that, that is going to be a good deal then, that consumers are going to start looking, rather than buying, strawberries that are coming from Mexico, why not buy strawberries that are coming from the continental United States? I mean, that's the goal here, I think, is to get folks to be thinking American, buying American. So as far as the effect it's going to have on the economy, time will tell. And it's very clear that, the Donald Trump has only been in office for a very short period of time. And I never expected that he was immediately going to be able to turn the ship around and boom. Things are just not that simple, especially when you look at all of the stuff the Biden administration was doing. It was not as simple as just turning the corner. And Bill, you've got to, the things that you comment on, I just shake my head at you. um, I'm not hard on my assistant. In fact, she was out for most of the time that she worked for us, which was less than 2 weeks. She was out for over a week with the flu. Can't be too hard on somebody in that time when they're not even here. And then and was gone then additionally after that. So yeah, that's not an issue with me. Um, it's one of the reasons though, as I look for a new producer, and I said this on the air this morning, I want somebody who knows the show. I want somebody who's a conservative. Um, because they're going to have a much easier time being a producer on my show if they know the radio show, if they understand, listen to the radio show, they're going to have a much easier time. So I wouldn't say that was an issue of me being hard on folks. And Bill, you might want to rethink your comment strategy. Let's see what else. Steve, while we're talking about the producer, I'm very tempted to apply for the producer gig, but I suspect my boss would be upset if I took half a day off every day to work another job. I expect they would be too, Steve. It's not for everybody. It's only a part-time position and depending. So, Edgy, you're welcome. He was looking for a call that was on the radio show, which I did post. And I'm trying to get it's my producer posts the podcasts of my shows to the website. And I want to get back on top of that today. I'm having to do all of that myself. It's been a good learning experience for me. And so then when we have another producer who comes, I was never set up to do that until recently. So now I've got access to the podcast. I can set them up. I can post them. So I will do more of that. But I'll trying to get those up. Steve saying, I really failed to understand the trans movement and the people that support it. Like it's okay to have men in women's sports. I just don't get it. It's like someone trying to convince me that red is green. I think a lot of us kind of feel that way. Kathy saying, I'd like to talk to the daughters of some of these Dems who wouldn't vote for the protection of women's sports. Edgy, I want to watch this. I am not seen this yet. Elon Musk's interview with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, I love the interviews that Rogan does. They're long. He gets into things in depth. He gets folks talking that you might not otherwise hear from. I just think he's great at what he does, Joe Rogan. So Elon Musk had some very disturbing revelations about money, waste, and fraud. I think he's a brave man for the skeletons he's digging out of the closet. Do you worry about Elon Musk's safety? I must admit it's crossed my mind. The safety of Elon Musk. Look at what he is doing and what he is dismantling. He is dismantling this stuff that has been put in place over quite a period of time. And I worry about his safety. But I appreciate that. I'm going to skip the stupidity. There's conversation going on. No, you're wrong, Kathy. I appreciate that. Can't believe you'd be too hard on anyone, Greg. I appreciate this. Oh, David saying, when I was in college, I would have loved that producer spot. My degree is in radio, TV, and cinema. Yeah, I appreciate that. Denise saying, I wish I could come into work around 9:30 so I could come work with you, but I don't think that's an option. No, it's a little bit late. But I appreciate that very much, Denise. Thank you. I appreciate that. Kathy's also concerned about Elon's safety. Edgy is saying trans athletes is not a non-issue for the women and girls that are losing to these delusional. And I'm not comfortable using terminology like that. I don't know what's going on with these folks. I really don't, and I don't. So I disagree. I don't like to see transgenders taking up those positions for women and girls, but I don't wish to be disrespectful of folks. And Andy, you make it hard. David saying, I was amazed at the women who fight for the right to unalive their children. He's trying to say many. There are many great people who have questionable parentage. There are a lot of issues that are out there. You made it to the end of the video. So thank you. You are part of my gallery of champions. Hit that like button before you go, and I'll be even more grateful to you. I want to thank you so much for being here. And I think this is kind of the way, I will try to hit a few stories with you, and then we'll come back and circle back to your comments at the end of the video. So I appreciate all of you and your comments. Very much appreciated. Hope to see you again tomorrow. So you take care until then. So long.